Can I be honest with you for a moment? At the time of recording this, Threads has just come out, that brand new app, and it's prompting me to just openly share with you what life is like as I'm doing some of these recordings. So right now, my toddler is so grumpy. I've just popped her down for her nap, and I've got, who knows, maybe half an hour, an hour of maybe time while she's sleeping for me to record these videos and these podcasts for you. It's wild. I've got so many things going on in my life and business right now, but I guess I just wanted to say hi, and before I get into things, just let you know more of the human side of Jacqui, and the everydayness that is life and running a business and being a mum. Any hoozles, today I want to chat to you about trends. Trends are quite divisive, particularly when it comes to design and graphics and visuals. Like in our world, we have trends everywhere. We've got trends for graphic design, but we've also got trends for architecture, for interior design, for decor, for fashion, for so many different things we see trends, and that's kind of how our world rolls. And I want to speak to how you should or should not take advantage of trends in your own business, whether that's for your branding or for your everyday graphics. I touched on this a little bit in my recent newsletter, my Letters from the Designer. If you caught that, I'll pop a link in the description or the show notes if you would like to sign up to that. Every second week I send out a newsletter that's got some current thoughts from me around life or business and design, plus a recap on the different podcasts and YouTube videos that have been out, a font recommendation of the week, a Canva tutorial and template, and all sorts of stuff to get you thinking and inspired for your branding and your business and your design. So let's jump into some discussion around trends and how my honest advice on how you can use them in your own business. So I don't know about you, but I'm usually either the first or I feel like the dead last to jump on a trend. I only just jumped on the Birkenstock trend last summer and finally got myself a set of Birks, which I'm obviously loving because they've been trendy for a reason. People like wearing them. But I was one of the first to jump on Threads, that new fancy pants app. But I was one of the last to jump onto sourdough. I feel like everyone got into sourdough in 2020, whereas 2020 for me was a year of being pregnant with my daughter. So literally when the lockdown happened, we found out we were pregnant. And in December when things were opening up, we had her. So full lockdown was me being pregnant and not feeling like baking sourdough. And so I'm actually looking into that right now. Right now while I'm recording, I've got my sourdough starter trying to form its first bubbles. I really don't think it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. Either way, there's trends everywhere. And as humans and business owners, we either jump on them straight away or we jump on them at the end or we try to ignore them totally. We might just totally miss the boat. I'm starting to half miss the boat with fashion trends lately. It's just gone back to the 90s and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But in design, there's a lot of things we need to think about with trends because as business owners, we need to make decisions around, are we going to lean into a trend, lean out of a trend, or totally ignore a trend? And there's a good reason to lean into a trend. Leaning into a trend means that you are on trend. It means trends exist because the majority of people are enjoying them, whether they're being told to or not, whether the reason behind the trend I'm not going to go into, but the fact is that people usually like trends. Trends exist because people have gotten on a bandwagon and they're enjoying that. And so if you're branding or your design, say for example, this certain color of, what's the color in right now? That tennis ball kind of greeny yellow color, that's coming in and I flip and love it. But that's a trend right now. And so leaning into that trend is likely going to mean that you look really current and up to date. It also means that your branding is probably going to be quite appealing to people because they're being drawn to it because it's something that they're being told to like right now and they probably are going to like it. And it makes you look like, especially if you jump on a trend at the start, it makes you look like a forerunner, someone who's thinking ahead, and someone who's really on trend. But the problem with trends is that people often do a trend for the sake of doing a trend, and that trend might not actually support their business or their brand vibes or what they want to portray in their business. And it means that they're looking really same to everyone else. There are so many logos that look almost identical or so many brands that look almost identical because all they're doing is taking a trend and changing the words to their business's name. We need more than that. We need to take a trend but make it unique to us. We need to pick a specific trend and use it in a way that is actually backing up what our business needs to be about. And so I want to chat to you, I guess, a little bit around how you can take a trend and make it your own, because trends really do have their place. And I have a lot of people that say, oh, I don't want to follow this new trend, yada, yada, yada. I'm just going to do this. But what they're suggesting to me is just a trend that was from 10 years ago that they just didn't get over because they're probably more old school in the way they think, and they don't like jumping on straight new things straight away, which is nothing wrong with that. But all they're doing is liking a trend from the past. It's not as if they're doing something totally unique or valuable. They're just doing a trend that used to be trendy, that they've finally got around, like me finally getting around to liking Birkenstocks. They're kind of going out of trend now, I'm pretty sure, but I like them. And so lots of people, business owners, like, oh, I don't want to do this new trend that's happening. I'm like, I mean, you can do that old trend, but that is still a trend. And so the main thing is really to potentially look through the trends, see what is popping up regularly in our world, and work out which one is actually applying to you, and then make it your own. Put your own unique spin on it so that's not just like a cookie cutter template of everyone else and what everyone else is doing. So my advice as a professional business owner, is that a thing? A professional graphic designer and 10 years in the industry and created hundreds of brands. I want to give you the overall tips of what I'd recommend for your business if you want to create a brand that's on trend, a brand that looks great. Because another caveat you can do here is you can create a brand, you can create your color palette, your fonts, your designs, and then maybe keep an eye on the trends, because trends are going to continue to evolve. For example, I made a brand for a client, I'm going to say 4 years ago. And at the moment, we're kind of just slightly tweaking her fonts and slightly tweaking her layouts so that it remains on trend, because she's a marketing expert. So she wants to make sure that she's appearing like she's ahead of the curve and really on top of things, which makes a lot of sense. But for her, it's meant that the fonts that we did choose a couple of years ago, while not being bad, need to be evolved slightly so that they hit the mark right now and they look so like on trend, because that's what her business needs to be, is on trend. Another problem with doing trends, though, is that you can look outdated really quickly if you're just like, sometimes there's trends that like literally are here one day and they're gone the next day. And so if you are just hitting a trend really hard and really giving it your all, what it means is that when that trend goes, your business is beginning already to look outdated. So something you want to do is, I guess, almost try to pick the trends that are going to be around for a little bit longer, which is, it's a fine art. There's no real way to know those things. But usually what I like to do is catch a trend that's maybe been around for about a year, ride it, add my uniqueness to it, and then continue that going. And like my client did, is tweak it if it starts to become outdated. So if you choose a font right now, but in 3 years' time, no one's using that font and it's kind of become a bit old hat, slightly tweak your font. You don't have to change your whole business and your whole brand vibes, but slightly tweaking a color, maybe make it slightly more bolder or slightly less bold, or slightly tweaking a font so it's still in the same font family, but it's a more modern take on that font. Doing those things will help your business to remain current and up to date, but also not updating your brand so much that it polarizes your audience, that you've just spent years helping them to get to know and recognize your brand. The beauty of a brand that stays consistent and doesn't change is that it begins to form this incredible recognizability with your audience, so that when they see you on Instagram, or they see your website, or they see you on Facebook, or they see you as they drive past a shop, or they see your flyer, they instantly connect with you and they've already formed this trust with you. And so changing up our brand all the time to match the current trends is not what I recommend, but evolving it slightly to stay up to date is okay, so long as you're not changing the vibe totally, you're not changing enough that it becomes unrecognizable. Like, I can almost guarantee that for this client that we've updated the fonts for slightly, I don't think anyone will have noticed that's what we did. Her overall colours have stayed the same, and her as a business owner and her photos and her being present in the business has stayed the same, and the vibe has stayed the same, but it's just brought in a little bit more boldness that it's currently on trend, and brought in a little more modern fonts that's currently on trend to help her business stay at that forefront. And you by no means have to do that. I have not updated my fonts in about 5 years, and that's totally fine too. And so think through for yourself though, is my business need to be current and up to date, or is it okay if it just looks nice? Like, there are some businesses that really do need to be at the forefront, but some businesses that are allowed to look just like they look nice and considered and thought through, not at the current of every single trend and always chasing to keep up with that. So anyway, let's go through a couple of steps. I've got 3 steps here of how you can, I guess, decide how you can take trends and make them your own. So the first step is to do what I speak of all the time. If you've been watching my videos or listening to my podcast for very long, you know that I speak about this a lot, and that's to think about the heart behind your brand. That's to think about, what is my business's wow? The wow is what I teach all the time, called the wow model, and it talks about your who for the first W, your originality for the second W, and your why for the third W, your originality and why. So thinking through who is my target audience and what do they love? What do they love? What do they love? What are they drawn to? What's going to help them to be drawn to my business and my brand? Secondly, there's your originality. So what makes you tick? If you're a personal brand like myself, you want to make sure that your business is representing you to some extent. If you want to watch a whole video on this, I'll link it here on YouTube and I'll pop it in the show notes if you're on the podcast. But I've got a whole video on your WOW model and how to dig into this. So this is that first step. And so that third step inside the WOW model is, what is your why? What does your business stand for? What do you want people to feel when they work with you? Why do you exist? Like, what are the vibes of your business, for want of a better word? And so once you think through those three things, you're going to have a lot of clarity for the next two steps I'm going to talk with you through. Because if you don't know the kind of things your audience is going to love, or you don't know what you want your business to represent, you won't be able to choose fonts and colors, for example, that represent those things, that draw in your audience, that do the things that you need your brand to do. You need your business to say at a glance what you stand for. If you're a playful business or a really chilled business, if you're a really professional corporate business or you're a really playful business, you need your brand to say those things at a glance. And so knowing your answers to these questions is going to help you to make decisions in the next couple of steps that are going to align with your brand and actually stand the test of time. Because even if your branding colors aren't like top of the line, up to date in 5 years' time, if they represent your business's why, if your audience is liking them, then they're still worthwhile keeping, because they're still doing the job that a brand needs to do, and that's connecting with your audience and communicating your business's value and your expertise and your vision and your values. All right, so that's step number one, look at your wow. Step number two is research the current trends and choose the one that most aligns to your business and the decisions that you made in that step number one. So like, there is 1,000 places to find trends. There is blog articles everywhere. Like, just literally search 2023 design trends and there will be a heap that come up. Or just scroll your own Instagram. But instead of your consumer hat, put on some eyes that are really looking closely of, what can I see here? What are the patterns that are coming up, particularly with those that I know are at the top of their game, like the big businesses that have been around for years and that have got a whole team of people making sure that their business is looking the part. Check out what they're doing. Check out if there's any design trends that they're doing. Is there certain colors that you're seeing quite regularly? Are there certain styles of fonts that are appearing quite regularly? There's certain ways of designing or like sorts of elements. Like for a while, they used to be like those blobby kind of circly kind of shapy graphics. They were really in for about 5 years. They're starting to edge their way out, but they're still okay. And so that was a trend for a little while. And there's so many trends. So what you do is kind of like look at some blogs or look at what you're seeing in your sphere of people and people that are in a similar industry to you as well. And people that are outside your industry too. Sometimes I get inspiration from like marketers or fashion people or something else who are different are still on top of the trends, but aren't in my field. So that I'm less tempted to copy other designers in the way that their business looks, but still going to be able to see what is current and what is trendy and what is trendy. That's like a word my mum would use. Trending. Probably a better way to say it. What is trending and things that are going to still be at the top of their game, but also not copying everyone in my industry. There's a good balance there. And so have a look at what's there and see if you can find things that represent what your wow is. Like, for example, if your business wants to represent a really corporate, professional, serious kind of vibe, don't use the current trend that's out right now with that tennis ball green color and those really fun, bright, poppy fonts. That's not going to suit your business and your brand. But there are corporate businesses that are at the top of their game that you can have a look at what they're doing. And maybe they've put a slight twist on the corporate blue color that used to be in, or maybe they're adding in a bit of a twist into the fonts, or like, what are they doing? And start to pay attention to that. I know you're probably like, Jacqui, I'm not a designer. I can't see these things. It does take a little bit to form an eye for this, but you will begin to notice some trends. You just got to actually look for them rather than not looking for them. Like for me, I don't really look for trends in fashion because that's not my sphere. But when I start to look for trends in fashion, I start to notice, I'm like, oh, everyone's wearing those little hammer hook pant, like string thingy bits on their pants, or like cargo pants are coming back in, or flares are coming back in, or yada, yada, yada. I start to notice them when I start paying attention to. I'm just asking you to start paying attention and see if there's any trends where you can actually find something that's already going to match what your wow is, but in the current way of doing it. Like I'm working on a brand right now with a client and we're doing such a fun, bright brand. I can't wait to show it to you. I'll show it to you on my Instagram. So feel free to make sure you follow me over there if you would like to see that brand when it is released to the wild, which will be in September, hopefully. That brand, we've done lots of beautiful, bright colors and lots of really bold, quirky shapes. And that brand, if I had to design that 10 years ago, it would look so, so different. But instead, we found a trend that is current, but it matches what she wants her business to represent, which is power and playfulness and boundaries, but with fun and yeah, like all these different things. And so we've taken what her business is about, found a trend that suits that, and then we've gone into step 3, which is creating it unique to you. So putting a twist on the brand so that it fits what you want your business to look like. So it fits your wow. So like taking a trend and applying your wow on top of it. So saying, oh, there's this really common color palette that I'm seeing going around right now. It's got this yellow and this pink and this blue, but actually I really want a really feminine brand, and so I'm actually going to keep the yellow and the pink, but I'm also going to add in a purple instead of the blue because that's going to be more matching my business. Or lots of people are using this really bold, strong font, but I don't want that really strong, bold font for my business because I want people to feel really calm when they work with me. But I like the idea of that, so maybe I'll use that bold, strong font, but really small so it still feels dainty, and then bring in a really calm font as my main font so that it still brings in that playfulness and that softness that I got from that step 1. Are you following me? Hopefully this kind of thing is making sense. All I want you to do is be aware of what's happening and step through this so that you can actually start to paint a picture of what is being created for your business in a way that's not just going to lose the trend in 5 minutes time, in a way that's not just going to look okay for 2 seconds and then not be okay, a way that's actually going to represent your business in a way that's going to attract people in because it's relevant and it's new and it's exciting and it's something that they're actually interested in looking at. And also then just paying attention to those current trends and how you can put a couple of those in. Like if you've already got a brand, don't rebrand just because of the sake of a trend, but do what I was saying that I did with one of my clients where we just maybe update a font slightly or update a color slightly so that it's more on trend. So I hope that's been helpful for you as you think through how can my business embrace trends, whether you need to do a full rebrand, which I don't recommend doing unless your business actually needs one. And then also thinking about how can I just make a trend my own rather than just copying everyone else and having a brand that looks the same as everyone else's. How can I take a trend but make it my own? How can I bring in a different element that's different to everyone else? Or how can I bring in something that's unique to me? Because that's what's going to help you to stand out. So enjoy that one. Have fun playing. And if you need help, I would obviously love to help you. I have a few ways that you can work with me. One is the Co-Creation Club, which is actually closing the day that you're watching or listening to this. So if you're watching and listening to it the day that it comes out. So I'm going to speak to not that, because if you want to work with me, that's an incredible way to do so, but it won't be open again until 2024. Or if you'd like to, you can join my program, DIY Design My Biz. In there, I go through like all the design principles you need to know. I go through creating your wow and doing all those things. And then I'll be there in the Facebook group and in our monthly group calls to actually help you look at the current trends, and we can do this stuff together. You can have some time with me on that call where you can say, Jacqui, this is my wow. How can what current trend do you think will apply to this? And we can kind of workshop that together, sharing our screens, talking about you and your business and actually getting real advice. Because as much as I can give you general advice on this episode, there's only so much I can do. And so if you want to work more closely with me with actual tips for your own business, then I would love to have you in DIY Design Biz or the Co-Creation Club if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out. So thank you for joining me. I hope you found that helpful, and I will see you next week for another episode. Bye.